of all, just by thanking Lori Martinez and the whole Engage New Mexico team. You all are so amazing. Let's give them another round of applause. I'm sure they've been up since the crack of dawn this morning, pulling all this together. It just takes so much work to make something like this happen. So just to the team, thank you all so much for everything you do. And then I wanted to just thank and acknowledge Frank Lopez. So I've learned so much from Frank over the years about leadership, about impact, about organizing. And Frank really changed my professional career in 2014 when he gave me the opportunity to come on board staff at Engage New Mexico. Prior to that, I was teaching high school history, and I loved my school, I loved my community, I loved my district, but I felt like our schools and our state were oftentimes not being set up for success. And I felt frustrated. And we all know that when we're feeling frustrated and we're just going through our daily routine over and over again and staying in our lane, it's not really a recipe for any sort of transformative change. So what the Success Partnership did for me, which I think is what it does for all of us, is it created this space where I got to learn about all of the amazing things that are happening in our county and meet all of you, all of these amazing people doing incredible work. And to transcend that sort of deficit perspective, that feeling of inadequacy, and come together around a vision, around what do we want to see for our county? What do we want to see for our education system? And the space that the Success Partnership created was so collaborative. There was so much positive energy. It allowed for authentic creativity. And in that sort of creative space that the Success Partnership cultivated, in that space, that's where the community schools movement was born. So I just want to ask, who's heard of community schools in the room? If you could show of hands. So in 2015, 2016, when the Success Partnership took on community schools as a strategy, if we would ask that question, there might have been one or two hands that came up. And I think that the reason why this community schools movement really has taken off so quickly over the past couple years is in large part because of the work that the Success Partnership has done, that we all have done, building relationships, networking, establishing this community, building a sense of urgency, so that when community schools bubbled up, it just took off. But there might have been one or two hands that didn't go up, so why don't we review what a community school is really quick, and this is just a quiz we like to do. So this is a pie chart, and it shows the different things that impact student outcomes, think like test scores. And so we've got teacher, we've got other in-school factors, like class size and curriculum, out-of-school factors like demographics, socioeconomic status, and then there's a bit that's just unexplained variance. So again, the factors that impact student academic achievement, grades, test scores. What do we think what do we think teacher is? What color do we think teacher is in this pie chart in terms of how much does what teacher you have, what kind of difference does that make on student outcomes? What do we think? Red? So teacher is actually blue. So teachers contribute something like 2 to 14% of the variance in student outcomes. What do we think? What about other in-school factors? Red, yeah. So between teacher and other in-school factors, all that stuff that we spend all our time thinking about, talking about in education policy makes up less than 25% of the variance in student outcomes. So what about this green? What's the big green space? Out of school factors. Yeah. and specifically socioeconomic status, has the biggest impact on student outcomes. And we know why that is, right? Students spend 80% of their waking hours outside of school, in their communities, with their families. And when they come to school, if they're not ready to learn, if they're worried about where they're going to sleep at night or where their next meal is coming from, if they're worried about untreated trauma, then they don't have the same opportunity to be successful in the classroom. So we know that here. And so what community schools do is they build the capacity of a school to take on those barriers to learning, to help mitigate some of the impacts of poverty, and to develop a bottom-up vision for what education looks like. Not just the vision that's passed on from Washington, D.C. to Santa Fe to us, but to really cultivate a vision that reflects families and community, a grassroots vision. We wanted to talk this morning just about how this community schools thing started. And it really started here with our community agenda. At the last Success Summit in 2015, we came out with this beautiful document that reflected our priorities. And we had done a lot of work on early childhood education, so we were sort of eyeing the second bucket of high school completion. And as we were talking about high school completion, something that got us so excited about community schools and why the Leaders Circle and Success Partnership just felt like this could be a real game changer is community schools isn't just an evidence-based strategy to support high school completion. It also connects with parent, student, and community voice, and whole child well-being, and creative student-centered education, and cultural and bilingual competency, and workforce opportunities, especially when we're talking about connecting families at the school level to workforce opportunities. So it was clear that community schools was a strategy that could advance our entire vision for what education could look like. And then we started meeting. So the Success Partnership sort of designated a subcommittee. We started meeting in late 2015, early 2016, every couple weeks. And by April of 2016, the Las Cruces Public School Board passed a resolution in favor of community schools and has been a champion for community schools throughout Las Cruces, and it has made community schools essential to the vision of Las Cruces Public Schools. But we needed a place to start. So thanks to Dr. Brown and Elaine Hampton and some other folks, we were able to get some funding to launch the first community school effort at Lynn Community Middle School, which started with an engagement process where over 1,000 stakeholders, families, students, staff, and community members started learning about what a community school is. So I just came across this picture recently, and you probably can't see this, but in the back, that's actually Dr. Trujillo, our superintendent now, and this is Wanda. And the very first opportunity we had to talk to families at Lynn about what a community school is, and to begin a dialogue and a listening process, which continued for a year. And now at Lynn, we've seen several partnerships start to emerge. We've taken on childhood hunger in a meaningful way. Roadrunner Food Bank gives out baskets of groceries every month. Casa de Peregrinos has a mobile food pantry in our Family Resource Center. We feed, in partnership with Family and Youth, 80 to 100 meals every single day after school. There's 16 different after-school programs at Lynn, including the STEM outreach programs, Boys and Girls Club, the Oslo Foundation in partnership with Cruces Creatives, the STARS Mentorship Program, and just a number, and LASE. We have an on-site dental unit in partnership with Doñana Community College. We have on-site behavioral health, mental health in partnership with Ben Archer. There's a restorative room with 3 social workers at Lynn doing case management. And we also realized while we were developing this process at Lynn that just having sort of a group of people come together every couple weeks didn't give us the kind of accountability we wanted to see in terms of a leadership structure for the community schools movement. So the city of Las Cruces came together with Las Cruces Public Schools, NEA Las Cruces, NMSU, our nonprofit community and families and grassroots voices to develop the Las Cruces Partnership for Community Schools, which is the entity that now looks at what schools do we want to become community schools, how do we support community schools, how do we develop sustainable funding streams for community schools. And I'm so excited to let everyone know and invite you all to this coming Saturday. We are going to launch 3 new community schools in Las Cruces this weekend. So, I'd like to introduce really quickly some of the community schools team that's here. So Booker T. Washington Elementary. Jessica, do you mind standing up really quick? So Jessica is the community school coordinator at Booker T. Washington. Tatiana Del Toro is the community school coordinator at MacArthur. And Maria Zuniga is our community school coordinator at Dunyan Elementary. Also Sylvia Chavez is at Lynn Middle School. Rachel Vega is our president. So we'd love you to come out this coming Saturday as we launch 3 new community schools. We also, so this movement is expanding in Las Cruces. Dr. Trio, I showed a quick picture of you at the very beginning of Lynn talking to families. So huge thanks to Dr. Trio for helping expand this movement in Las Cruces. We also are expanding on this in the state. So the New Mexico legislature passed a Community Schools Act last session and allocated funding to launch 26 additional community schools in New Mexico. So that's also incredibly exciting in places like TRC, Roswell, all over the place. So we'd like to recognize another community school in town that received the community school state grant, and that's Raíces del Saber Xinachtli's community school. So Lucia is here and Jane Ash, who have worked throughout the past several years developing a community school model at a charter school in town. So, so this is an incredibly exciting time in the community schools movement, but we definitely need your help. We need the Success Partnership for a number of reasons as we grow this movement. First of all, we need to integrate community schools into our colleges of education throughout the state so that school leaders and teachers understand the community schools philosophy as they're coming out of school. We need to develop ways to evaluate success and really think about what success means in the community school context and use metrics that aren't just the traditional test score metrics. And we need supporting and scaling this based on the amazing work that you all have done in Las Cruces to other places in our region and across the state. We want to emphasize that community schools is not a silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve all the challenges we face in our education system, teacher shortages, etc. That's where we need strong partnerships, and the Success Partnership is the key to that, bringing us all together to take on these incredible systemic challenges that continue to plague us in our state. And then to also connect us with other pieces in the continuum. As we're launching 3 new elementary schools, it'd be wonderful to continue connecting with the Early Childhood Coalition, and we've had lots of conversations with Lori and others about this, about how to make those schools sort of early childhood hubs and centers. And then lastly, we need to just continue advocating for community schools. It's amazing that we now have 4 community schools in Las Cruces and more in the state, but it's still a drop in the bucket, and so we need everyone's support going forward to make sure that every student has access to this model. So anyway, we really appreciate all the work. The community schools has been a model that people have come from all over the country to see, hear how we're approaching this in Las Cruces. It's really because of the hard work of the Success Partnership and all of you. So thanks again, and that's it.